So this arch, and I'm going to show you because there was, in working this thing out, I was figuring out ways of like, how do I get the arch perfect? How do I get it to be able to add on the elements that I want to add on? How do I get it to repeat the way I want it to repeat? And those were all factors that made me change how I was modeling it. And I was like, okay, but where am I at in the project and what would I be thinking about? So, just looking at a few more and then we're going to sketch it out. So, oh, that's kind of nice. You can actually, when it's the building, you know, I saw this actually a double T. I had never noticed that it's actually a double T right there. It's kind of nice. So little added structure, little structure. Well, that blue doesn't really read, but nice little double T is actually the channel there. That's how they made that. So we could actually model, well, I didn't model this. We'll try to model a little lip that we could turn on or off based on where it is. That'll be a nice little added thing. Okay, so what are we trying to do? I had it reversed the other day. I think I like it reversed. Just because I'm drawing with my right hand and that seems closer. So what we're going to do is sketch out. What I want to do is, if we think of the object first, right? It's about 20 feet, right? I think by 100 foot. 20 feet by 100 foot. Right? So let's say 20, that's 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Okay. Drew that terribly. Forward a bay, and we can end it right there. So what are ways that we can work for this? Center line is important. So I definitely want to figure out that center line logic. Like if I just want to draw an arch, I would draw a center line. I would bring it up to wherever that center is. I'd bring it up to wherever that center is. And now I could draw an arch. Right? And I could draw an arch. I could then take right where I get the farthest from this and draw a line right there. And now I've got a nice barrel, right? So we want to make this form. Because we're looking at keeping this, let's say, standard little rectangle the whole way. I was thinking, well, what if we use the pattern base, right? So that idea that when you go into Revit, you use that pattern based thing. And I was like, okay, we could make that work. And I just then array this on a grid, right? And so that would array it like every other, or like that would array it on every square. But the problem is that these things don't line up right next to each other, right? They actually line up, the bay isn't equal because there's an A bay and then a B bay, right? And then an A bay and then a B bay. So at first I was trying to use the pattern base, but realized I can't get the benefit of the pattern base because it doesn't actually repeat right next to each other, right? But there was a couple of things that can work well. The idea that every one of these would be coming to the next seam and the next one would be coming off right next to it, right? But there's a big shelf between them, right? So that was kind of one thing I was first thinking through. So I modeled one or two this way just to see what is the benefit. And I'm going to show one really quick. I'm going to jump back and forth on like things I tried that didn't work and then where I got to how I would probably model it, because I think that's making the decision of how you model these things is probably the hardest part or takes the most. So let's say this one probably worked the best. I was looking at how do I use the bay. And so when we do file, new, family, generic model, pattern based, remember, it starts off as this square. And remember, it will change and adapt to whatever you want. But if I grab it, I can actually put it, let's say 20 feet by 100 feet, just so I'm looking at it in the right proportions. It will change to whatever the pattern is, but sometimes it's helpful just to see it that way, okay? So that's what I did with this first one. Not this one, for this one, is I just was setting it to get the proportions, and mostly because I wanted to use some actual dimensions, and so I wanted it to kind of be close to what I was doing. This is a thing. As soon as you start really using some fixed dimensions like 4-inch thickness or X amount off, and not proportions, then that means it has a possibility of failing if you put it in a pattern where that dimension can't work. If something's completely proportional, it will typically work no matter what the size. But if you make something that has a strict controlled dimension, you run the chance of it doing. So this is where setting it up to where it's approximately the size I'm going to use. I know I'm kind of using this as a strict size. I might not be changing it. I just want to be able to drop it in a whole bunch. This is where I was thinking through. What is the variability that I want to play with this, right? Am I just modeling a generic model that I just drop in? And that could very well be it. And that's kind of what I end up getting to. But first I look at the pattern base because I wanted the idea that it would change. So what we see I'm doing here is I set up a couple parameters, and this is kind of fun. I wanted to record whatever the width would be. Okay, so by setting a dimension, and I'll go DE. Oh, nope. You got to make sure I go DE, and I want to get the width. So I want to get, come on now. Nope, it's not like that. SW, so flat. DE, I want to grab between that plane and that plane. And then I went up and made it a parameter. I already have it done, and I have it width reporting. Okay, so what I did is I made a new one. I called it width, and I said instance and reporting because I wanted that to report to others. Okay, so what I did is I took that width, and then we'll see that I have a depth, and I did the width. No, sorry. Yeah, the width reporting times 1/3 high. Now, this was kind of a sloppy way of making that height correct. Let's do a nicer one. So I'm going to let, because I figured out a way to doing it a little more accurate to what the math is. We think of this the cycloid, or how you freaking pronounce it, right? Let's just think about this conceptually. The circumference is running the whole way, and it gets to the full diameter at the middle. Well, what's the circumference of a circle? Equals 2 pi r. No, you probably didn't remember that, but it takes 2 seconds to look it up. So we want the radius times 2 to get the height of that, right? Because the radius would be this, 2 of them would be the diameter. There we go. So we just solve this as c the distance. So if we want to solve this, we could go r equals c divided by 2 pi. We could be really sloppy and just say 3.14 times 2 is 6.28, close enough. C divided by 6.28 equals r. We want to multiply that by 2 to get our distance. Does that make sense? Our diameter equals 2r. So whatever the c is divided by 2.8 times 2 equals our height. Okay. That's just thinking through the parameters, right? So so let's try to do that with this parameter. Okay, I did it in a different project, but I'm going to update this one to be correct. So I want a parameter. We're going to just kind of redo some new stuff, and I'm going to say a new parameter, and I'm going to say arc height just to change it. It is going to be an instance because it's an instance reporting. It's going to responding to an instance reporting, so it has to be an instance. Otherwise, it can't be driven. Okay. Now we want that to be the width. So I'm going to put width divided by 6.28. But I want this whole thing times 2. I can put it at the beginning, I think. See if it likes one or the other. Doesn't like that parentheses. Parentheses unexpected. See, it should be there's just one of the nomenclatures. I want to see what I did in the other one. I did it a little, because this one I I don't like how this one turned out, but I did 2 times the dimension divided by 2 times 3.14. So theoretically, it should always, any math should always do the division before the multiplication. So theoretically, that should be right. We could actually do the math outside of it and make sure it's right. But that makes sense. In any multiplication, in any equation, you should be doing the division first, right? Oh, it didn't save the one I just did. So new, what I say, arc. Instance. Now, notice that that time I was, so we're going to go to, and the little asterisk is times with, actually, I wonder if I do, if the parentheses will work with divided by, and I could go 2 times 3.14, or I could just say 6.28. It's close enough. Let's see if these parentheses work. Yeah, that worked. Okay, so it just didn't like, so I like that better. Anyways, it makes sure we know that we're saying this divided by that, then times 2, and we get our arc height. Okay, so that was a way of kind of using the proportions to always get the height what it was. So now I could grab this one and it'll change a little bit. I just want to grab that guy, and I had it set at the other height. Now I want to say arc height. Oh, nope, I hit cancel. And so this was set. So that point had been set on the midpoint, right? I set a point here. I dropped a point on the flat of that and then raised it up. It's raised up a controlled amount, arc height. Okay. There we go. Now it's all flight, right? So I was a little fancier with this one, and I wanted the curve to be really correct. So I was graphing out at 1/4 what was the height, so I could get the flat. I remember when we were looking at in this other one, I graphed at like 1/3. So like I just wanted to get another point to get it to look like that arc. This is where it gets fussy, and I realized that both of these were working to get me the arc really close to what was happening, but it was also making me have to work a certain way that was then causing also problems. So, but one solution with this, so let's just walk through. I made a surface. And then what I did is I made, you'll see something here. Hide reset. No, let's delete that real quick. Dissolve. I want to grab, come on now. There we go. So I made a negative. What I did is I set off, because there's the opening in between this, right? I wanted the surface to be continuous. I didn't want to try to model 2 surfaces. I wanted one surface logic, but then I wanted to void out a section of it. So I actually just put 2 lines there, and then in plan, drew that up, said create negative, and then subtracted that form from this object, this surface. Okay, so that's how I'm getting that. Now, what was interesting is when I just want to show you something. When I load this into this build, and there's going to be other stuff here, but I'm going to load this one in just for right now. This should be generic model. Kimble vault. Does it let me? I got to actually assign all 4. It's probably going to, yeah, it's not going to like that. Let me do, I got to make a surface to load it. Okay. So what would have to happen here is that I actually have to go into massing, because it's a curtain pan, it's a panel pattern base. This is what I end up not liking, is like, oh man, I don't want to have to make a surface. My view doesn't have divide that surface. Oh, should be divided. It's got a stupid path. Sorry. Get out of this. Yes, calm yourself down. Go to architectural rendering. It's still just never corrected my templates. And I'm going to go massing, in place mass. I'm going to Hey, get on, it just create a form, and we can just create a, let's say, a flat sheet. I can grab it, I can divide surface. I did want it to be approximately the right size. Let's just say 2 really quick and 1. Okay, if I want this to be a little longer, that should be about the right size. Now I should be able to grab this and say, the one I just loaded in was that one. Oop, it's loading the wrong way. So I need to rotate. I'm gonna take this. So it was rotated the other way. It was like cutting the other way. And I'm gonna take this and say, just for ease, I'm gonna say this is 1 and that's, let's say 3. Should be proportions right. Just for discussion purposes. Okay, so what's happening is my void clip is being determined, like the segment that's getting cut out is being cut incorrectly, right? So let's kind of go back and just see why that's happening. So my control points for this is going, oh, the reporting, oh, because I got rid of my reporting parameter. So all of it was just being controlled. I actually got to make that my reporting. So because the way I did my width was take the reporting parameter midpoint and then subtract 1 inch from that. That way, this point and this point should be going off the center X amount. So I got to have my report. So although I made it, I hadn't actually had it in the project, so it didn't know how to think about it, right? So I should be able to load that in. And this should go overwrite with existing. Sometimes it likes to be loaded back in again. I'm here. I'm doing all this so I can show you why I didn't like it. So I was like, okay. So you see how like now it understood what the width was, so it understood the parameter, it understood what all those things are. But I also didn't, but I'm like, oh, but I'm not getting the middle beat, right? Because so the benefit of the pattern base isn't helping me with what I wanted in this one, even though I thought that was going to be a nice way to do it. The thing that's interesting with this though, is I just want to point out is this was an in-place mass, right? So it's just a mass that's there, but, and there was only a shell thickness, but we can go, hey, I want to create, got to finish the mass. Where's the finish? Why is this? What am I locked in? Why is this being so like something's locked? What's locked? What's locked? Don't go away. What am I missing? Finish there. That's all I was looking for. Finish. Yes. Okay. So it's an in-place mask. The one thing I wanted to show you with this is it can be really useful if this was, let's say, something that I wanted to do. It was continuing like this. Remember when we did the Lino Bombardi? We just drew a profile and did the roof. We could have done this way too and just drawn all these as arcs the way that we did the roof profile, right? But another way to make kind of roofs and wall forms is just go architecture wall. And I'm going to say like a 4-inch wall, but we can say grab a surface and we can grab these and it just makes them really quick. And so the idea that can be a really useful way of using the whole in place. So we're talking about like why use in place mass versus the component. Remember that other day I was talking about component model in place where you want to make like a crazy piece of furniture that you're using once versus massing in place where you want to make a crazy form or do something, but you're then using that surface to load architecture components on. And that's where this worked really great because now all of a sudden, you know, like you can get rid of that. And I just have these architecture walls, which are working as the roofs, and that's done, right? So like the benefit was cool, but I was like, really, I don't need it to be I don't need it to be on the pattern base, right? So the interesting thing is you can use, if you have a grid, so watch this, first floor, I'm just gonna go over here and go RE. Actually, I have already got this grid. Let's just shake this grid out. It's approximately what I want. This was actually a different beat, but close enough. We're just gonna play with something. And I've got RE this way. I realized, well, let's say that's the gutter between these two bays. That makes sense? One bay, another way. I can actually take, instead of loading in that pattern base on a surface, I can actually just take that pattern base and just go one. I don't know which one's the second one. We'll see if it's going to go upside down, but. So you can just load in, this is interesting, you can load in a pattern base. I would have to go the opposite direction. I might be able to just flip it. Yeah, flip, good. Yeah, it doesn't like, I got to just, I went clockwise. I need to go counterclockwise. That makes sense. And it's just the order that it comes in at. So if I go, it was long first. I'm going to go 1, 2, this should work. Oh, I'm still going clockwise. Damn it. That's so funny. In my head, it just did not like that. So I'm still, no, okay. So that just came in as a surface, and I can still grab that surface and say, hey, I want to architecture wall surface, bam. Okay, so I was like, okay, so that would work because I could do that. And I could then load it in. The reason why we're seeing it cut weird like this is because this is a plan view. And so it's cutting through that plan. If I go to site plan, we then see the whole thing, right? So that was just where that drawing was being cut. But so that could be one way to do it. I make the component the way I was showing. I make the component and I load it in, okay? Now, there was something interesting I also wanted to show was just this idea. Now we'll just leave that there. So that was one way, but I wanted to load other stuff. I wanted to have the rim beam on here and some other stuff. So I was looking at ways of, let's say, doing, grabbing these. I just drew a cross section on there and said, hey, create a ridge. But then I'm like making something one way and something else another way. And it just seemed to get a little confusing. I didn't think it would probably really do what I wanted it to do. So I started looking at other ways of modeling it. And so I'm going to kind of reverse engineer what I did here. Actually, we can just start it from scratch. So I decided to do it as a line based. So just as we did the generic model, we did a few lines. Oh, the big beams for bombarding, right? We just drew a cross section, put it on the line base. We're going to do in essence that by creating the profile. Now, that what was tough is that the profile had to be, let's see, I had to have some control. How do I want to control the thickness of these things? And so I like kind of what happened, but there's some stuff I want to resolve. So I want to try to get this to resolve a little better down here. I also we'll talk about the negative and how to get that to go through the way we want. And then we're going to look at how to also do a light shelf that we're going to nest into it. Okay. So I guess what I want to talk about is like the pattern base works, but you got to make sure the pattern you like. You can also use it if you just want the surface to then host actual elements on. And so I would say the wall is more adaptable. If you use the floor and grab by surface, the floors, it wants to be flat. Walls, it allows it to do weird stuff, especially if it's just kind of the generic one. Okay. So just thinking through that, those work for their own reasons. Wonder what happens if I do this. Should fail. Yeah. Okay. So just want to see. All right. So we're going to do a new file. I'm going to close down some of these just because. some of them worked, but they didn't work necessarily the way I wanted them to. And so that's what. That's fine. We can leave that open. We'll leave that open. Okay, so we're gonna say file new. This is where we're starting. File new family. G line base. So remember, what the line base does is just makes an automatic 2-point adaptive thing. Because in essence, you got 1 point and 2 points. You're dropping a line in, right? And now, just for some ease, I'm going to take this and put it at least like 40 feet, just so we get the idea of scale. So we're looking in plan right now, reference level. I'm going to go and say left. And so this is the end. And I'm going to actually, I think I can just rename this. Can I just rename it? Yeah, rename. I'm going to say end. And then I'm going to put back and say side. Okay, because those are the two that I want in essence. I want the end and I want the side. That's how I want to think about it. The whole, I don't know why the other left, right, all that doesn't make sense to me. So these are locked, and in essence, that line's coming in right there, right? That line is right on in the intersection of those two things. And so you got to think about, how do I want this? How do I want to drop it in, and where do I want it to line up? And so I would think, if I was drawing this, that I want that reference line to be right here. Because I realize when I'm laying out this building, the center lines of the bays, yes, the grid is going to be doing this, and then the grid's big, right? But I was like, you know what? I want other things to go on the center line, I think. So we could make it like, like I could make this the line, but then it's just jumping over to here, and I can make this the line, and it's just jumping over to here, and that would work. But for some reason, the center lines of base, a lot of times there's going to be doors, there's going to be windows, there's going to be other arches, there's the lighting element. The center line seemed like a dominant thing to me. And I think that's what I want you to start realizing, this idea that what is the principal organizing factor in the project that everything can attach to, right? We kind of say that several times. Can there be one logic that everything is hosting itself to? So when that logic changes, the rest of them do. So when we look at the end, we get this, and I say, okay, so are going to do the same normal stuff, RE, kind of start laying out some stuff. That's about the arch. I know I figured out after I need to have some thicknesses of the shell. That was the easiest way for me to think about it. We'll even just start with that. So I'm going to go distance. Actually, I'm going to do this really quick. This will be kind of fun. I haven't done this before. Boom. No, I don't want to walk it. Let's just do the way we don't. Boom, 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 equal. Okay. And then I want to go here to here. And if I touch this one, I know this is about, I think it's 20 foot, so that's 10 feet. For sake, I'm going to make that bigger. This over here right now. I'm going to clean this up after. And let's go height here. And this is going to be a parameter. So let's make that a parameter. This is the bay width. Let's say bay width. It's an instance. It can just be a type. We're just going to use it to control the other thing. It could just be a normal type, because we could just tell it to be different. But now this is interesting, is we want this height to respond to that width the same way. Right? We want the same way we talked about. I was using a point to this app. I can make the height of this, the point of this arc to hit based on that. So I want to make this a parameter. And I'm going to say arc height. Good enough. And we can go in and I can say bay width. I just paste it in there. And then what was the way we did it before? We did 2 times parenthesis bay width divided by 6.28 parentheses. Oops, there it goes. Apply. There it goes. Okay. Now, what were these little things? I realized that this is where sometimes you just get so frustrated. Let me grab the stupid line. Man, I don't know if it's like a resolution thing or like you just I got a brand new, like, oh, just I don't want to grab that. I want to grab that. It'll make sense a little bit why I did these as these little tags. So how do we make the arc? What drove me nuts is that in those other ones that I had made, I had used the spline through points. And so remember, I had like one here, I found another point out here, I did that point, that point, that point, and I got the kind of flat arc close to the cycloidal arch. Now, it's a constantly changing arc. Actually, we can see what happens. Let's try some. Oh, so what I did to make the one that I just did there is I go, look, I'm going to create some reference lines. And so the thing is, you don't get in this world, when you're looking this way, they don't want three-dimensional weird lines because everything's in planes. So it wouldn't let me pick the line through the spline through points. So I had to pick kind of true radiuses. So I could grab that point, and an arc. And it's pretty close, but it's not his arc, right? And so that kind of, I was like trying to figure out what are different ways of making that arc in here. To see if it worked, I just started by doing this first to just run through it. So I'm going to do that first, just so that we can talk about how to get the component to work as an object. And then after we get it working, we're going to come back in and see if we can rebuild the logic to be more like Kahn's arch. Okay. Because I just want to show you this process through. So what I did is I wanted a thickness for this. And so I just said, well, what if things are always, let's say 6 inches thick. 6 inches. We could make this a parameter and have it change, but right now I'm just going to write 6 inches, in essence, creating all these as 6 inches. Okay. And now I can do another one of these, create a reference line with the thing, and I'm looking at that. Well, that's weird. It should have grabbed. That makes sure this intersection. We want grab at intersection. Okay. Create. No, they're actually so. They're both just types because I could change the type of the bay by saying I want this bay to be 10 feet. I'm changing the type. The other one had to be an instance reporting because it was a pattern based, and the pattern might change the width. See, and so every one might have been different based on the pattern, which is where that logic had to change. Oh. Okay, so now I got 2 arcs kind of doing that. I could come in and go create reference line. And what I'm doing is I like drawing it out first. So there probably isn't a need to draw it out first. I just like drawing it out first. So in this line-based one, I can say create extrusion. I want to grab all the lines that I just drew. Oh, I got to be looking in that view, so it's flattening it out. Actually, I'm going to go back into end. I didn't only did it here. I want to create extrusion by selecting these lines. That one. I had to be in this view because it's looking at this view for doing it. Create extrusion. See how it's picking them now in this plane when I was in the 3D. So I've got that thing, right? I hit yes, I get an object, DD, I can see it here. I can go to the side and say, I want that object, AA, to always go the length of that. Now we got that shell going a thickness. So this is where I modeled the thickness instead of the other thing. I just created a surface and applied the Revit wall on it, right? Two different ways of doing that. In the same way, I want to create the negative form here. So I'm going to go back to the end. And I'm going to say, I want that negative form. I always want it to be centered. So I'm going to, again, just do my little logic here. E. And then I'm going to grab this one and just write, let's say 8 inches. So it's going to be like a 16-inch gap in the center there, right? Now, this is interesting is I can go to the plan and I can see those reference lines because those are planes like going through, right? Those. Oh, that's the dimension. I was like, it should be centered. Yeah, that's the. So now I'm going to say create void extrusion. I'm just going to draw a box, and I'm even just drawing some random box over here. AA, that line lock, that line lock. My should be able to grab the reference line. Yeah, whatever, that line lock. And oh, you can probably grab the endpoint. Yep, that's smarter. Okay, so now we go DD, and it's just there. So now I can grab this and say, hey, I want you to be, if we were really smart about it, I can make this, let's be really smart about it. So the height of this, I can just pull up through, but let's be smart about it. I'm going to say the height of this extrusion is going to be a new one, void height. Okay. And the void height is going to be the arc height times, or no, plus 1 foot. Okay, now I know I'm always cutting through it, but I don't have some random big box. If I want to be even fancier, let's be even fancier. I'm going to say the bottom of the extrusion, bottom void, because I'm going to go, bottom void is going to be arc height minus 2 feet. Oh, look at that. Perfect little void up where we want it. But so now if I change the width, it's there. And I don't have an object that's this big void object that's actually kind of sometimes can be accidentally grabbed and stuff. So it's a way of just kind of cleaning that up, but it's smart. And then if we change the width, actually, let's see if this flex is right. If I change the width, this is where you see if you screwed up or not, to 10 feet. Yeah. So that's so I can make different types. Now, but you notice because of how we did the arc, it's not, it looks right when it's at this scale, but when it got down, the way the arc is being made, it's crap. But it's going to get us where we're going here. So apply. We're going to start with this. Now we want to cut this void in here, so I can just go cut this with this. Now I want to show you something. We can also have it, there's going to be some of these bays, like the outer ones, where we want it solid, right? So I want to be able to turn this cut on and off. So if I just grab the cut object, you got to roll over it. I grab the cut object, I can say, look, cut's geometry is already a parameter. I can grab that, say new, say cut. Okay. Okay. Now I can go into edit this and say, hey, cut off, apply, goes away. Okay, this is super helpful for when you want to have panels with a couple different things on or off, or cut through or not cut through. You can just make a few of them where you turn something on or off. So super helpful, super nice. Apply. Okay. So what are some other things we did? Okay, so creating the rim form on these. Let's look at that, because there's like kind of the structural edge at the end of this on each one. I'm actually going to go back to the end, because we've got that profile line that we made this form with, right? So we just make that whole form and just HH. How much stuff is there? There we go. That's weird. Can't just hide it. Oh, there's the profile. It changes it in this one. Yeah, but make it goes away when, or there's the object. Yeah, HH. There we go. I just want the profile lines. So we think about it is I want to actually sweep along that one. The first time I did it, I just created one profile, dropped it on this object, and said sweep along this rail. Something that can be useful is I want you to think about how when there's this, let's say, reset, we can, if I look at the side, right at this point, I can draw a cross section right here. So let's say I'm going to go, I think this is the actual front. No, that would be the front. I'm going to go RE and I'm going to draw the profile of the object of the rim beam, right? So we could measure this out. How thick was it? Maybe a foot thick. This makes sense. I'm looking like, think of it as the cross section right at the apex of the arc. That makes sense. Maybe we want it to be maybe like 4 inches proud from the top, and maybe it's actually smooth with the inside. Now that I think about it, I don't think you see it because that's where the light's allowed to come in. So it's really just a rim that comes up over the edge, right? That makes sense. This is going to be if we're cutting through the arch right now, right? That's what we're seeing the profile cut right here. The rim of it goes up, over, back like that, and is level with it. So this is the cross section. I'm just going to go again, create reference lines, and I'm going to draw. Okay, so what I've done is I've just created a box right there, right? And I'm letting that exist there. I'm going to go to the plan. Should have actually measured that. Let's see which end it's on. Which end is it on? I don't know which end it's on. I want to draw this on the same. I almost got to make an object out here. I just don't even, I'm going to draw a model line here just so I know which. Aha. So it's up there. So in essence, I want to make the extrusion that's down here that's going to be that it's going to sweep along, right? So RE, let's draw this here. Let's draw another one here. And this was 1 foot, and then it was lining up with that, right? So 1 foot here. Now, this is in a flat plane, which this is like how funky do we do it? I'm going to do like 6 inches. We're going to talk a little bit about why doing that. So create a reference, and I'm going to do this actually on the other side also. Okay, so I got that one there. I need to draw one more. In 6 inches. And really, I could just grab this one. Okay. Again, I like drawing them out first. We could be drawing these as we are making the form. You'll see what happens. I like selecting them. I like knowing that they're in the right place, picking the things we want. But so now we have a rail. We've got 3 sections. The more of these you do, the better, but this will work pretty well. When I was thinking about, it's like, how would I do this really quickly? This is how I would think through it. We could have, like, we're going to try to find another point here to make this arc better when we do it later, and we'll find other ways of making cross sections work. But so now I'm going to go create blend, and I'm going to pick path, boom. And then we can actually usually pick more than one profile. Oh, it's projecting it at the end. All right, we're gonna just do it the way I did it the first time. I liked using those. I was hoping that that only works in one. Okay. What's going on? I need to put that point. It's making me draw it at that plane. Oh, I'm gonna do. All right, cancel. Cancel. So I'm trying to do that, but it's making me pull planes that are on the end. The way I did this the first time is I just did sweep instead of sweep blend. Sweep blend is picking multiple cross sections. Sweep is pulling one, and it's going to be right at the center. There's the plane, so I drew it on there, and that's how I got the first one to work. So I go yes. No, I already did that. Yes. I can edit the profile, and I can just say grab, draw these, just like that one. Okay, and FF. Clean up. So a couple of those extra. Okay, that. And we get the extrusion. But it's killing me because I did like that little flip up. So I was trying to think of what are ways that I would model it to get that. That's all based on that line. Maybe we'd have to extend the line further or model it in a different world. But I want to, actually what we're going to do is create end caps to clean it all up. We'll do the center, that'll work. I'm going to do this. This point right here is going to be the center line of the structural beam. So what I'll do is just say we want to do create the beam that goes along the end here, and then it's going to swarm up all of that. So if the logic is that that's the center line of the beam and center line of all that, actually works pretty well. So I'm going to do 1 foot down, and I'm going to do maybe 8 inches up. And then let's say I want this to be the width of the beam to be. Sure. Okay. That's too deep. Okay, so now I can just say create extrusion. We're just going to draw that here. Go to the side, we see our little thing and go, I want that to go AA. I want it to go all the way to the, ooh. I can pull it to there and lock it, or I can hit AA and I can, so I'm going to grab this. We need to make that arc on the other side too. But right now we're just going to do that and lock it. Okay. So now we've got the rim and that, and that'll go. And actually that cleans up on the inside more like what it's supposed to be anyways, but. So I would probably be looking at something along those lines to begin with. We'd want to build that rail on the other side, but I'm going to look at how we make the thing that's the light scoop that's inside here. So this is a single line. Let's file save this and load it in and see if it works the way we want. Save. Line-based vault. That was coming in all right. I just want to delete these first. So what I was looking is I had drawn this out like, okay, what if that was one way to think about it, but what if we do, I'm gonna get rid of these and just say if I had drawn the center line of each of those bays for the project. What do you think of these? Let's look at the drawing really quick. So what is the width of that? If that is 20 feet, that's got to be 5, 6, 7. Where this comes down right there. That to that has got to be 5 feet, I bet. Which means these are on center every 25 feet, right? On center. So we could just go, hey, I want this to be 25 feet. Just doing this quick. And these are where our intersections will be. So this would, so now I can load in my. Again, it's cutting it all weird because we're seeing it from the plan view, which is cutting it. So the ones that I loaded in earlier that were shell based versus these newer ones that I just put in with the rim and all of that. And now, so let's say when I said about the idea that, let's say this end one's the outside one, right? I'm going to take this, duplicate, and say no void. Okay, so now double click on that, it opens up the parameters, turn off cut. Okay, I can grab this one and say it should be this like one, no void. Okay, so that idea of creating that as a parameter, you just have to make the other, you have to make it as an option, right? But you could load them all in and change them. So this is also where you could load something in a whole bunch of times and then just randomly pick 10 of them and change it to a void. Like the idea of taking a whole bunch of time, if you're not good at Grasshopper, if you're not good at a parametric thing, you could also just make something that's got a simple parameter like this, pick a third of them and turn them off, and you start to get an array happening or whatever you're looking at. So there's ways of just quickly getting that in there as a way to communicate your idea, right? So let's look at the light shelf, because I want to get that as another level of this. So, so there it is there. I think there's another good picture too of it. So there's a, in essence, a big rib. There's an exterior, there's a profile here, and then there's a hard surface there. So I'm actually going to leave this open right now. I'm going to make a surface and a rim, and then this thing that repeats. Okay. And so because it repeats, I'm just going to model one bay of it. Okay. And then we can look at how we array that or use that differently. So this is where, when I started to model this one, I was like, screw that. Line based is the best. I'm just going to do that. So let's go file. Okay, so, and let's say, I'm just gonna set it up to 6 feet just so that I can see it approximately what I want. Again, I'm gonna go, I think back was, well, back could be. I don't know why the logic's, I'm gonna do end. Okay, so now just like the just like what is the line that we want to understand, that we want to be dropping this in on? And so with this, there's, if I think of this line, it seems to me like there's a logic where there's a spline that's kind of in that gap, that height that's up there, right? And then it's kind of curving out and curving out. This is kind of how I would think about it, right? There's a rib, there's going to be an extrusion that's kind of going out. Now, what's interesting is that we see here, you see how the rib is doubled? Doom, 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 doom. A lot of times if I know something's going to repeat, I won't build the second half one because this is going to repeat there. And then I just got to model something at the end or snap one on or do something. But because that one's actually doubled at those ribs, it means that I can do this. And then the next one is going to sit next to it and it'll actually look like it's supposed to. So it's just one of those where that kind of works. So I want ribs, 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 ribs. I want long rails. And then I also want a surface here and a surface on the other side of that half. Okay, so there's kind of an overall logic of arc and arc that we're building off of, right? So I'm going to be looking at this end, building those things. I want to draw it out first. So in my head, what we're going to do in this is create an overall point of the arc. So the primary ones, that's the point, that's the center. Reference line, so that I can actually get a radius point, an arc, and a radius point, an arc. I can then take that arc and we can sweep a cross section up that one and sweep a cross section up that one. Actually, I think I realized that I just modeled all this once and mirrored it on the line. So frankly, we might just model one side of this, do a sweep to create that one. I can copy it and lock it to the back of the line. So I'll build this one and I'll copy it and lock it to the back of the lines plane also. And then I'll take that same line that I swept to make that object and I'll offset it to make an extrusion that I'll make the plane going all the way back. I'll also do another square extrusion that we go straight and lock to the back. So pretty much everything's going to be built in that plane, extruding back, because that's kind of what's happening, right? The only thing that's a little weirder is that I'm going to draw a cross section on this to sweep that rail on one of the sides, right? That's what I came to, and I got it to work okay the first time. So what's the total? It's that's killing me. It's shit like that. Why don't move? Oh, I don't need to unpin it to elongate it. Maybe I do. Okay, that was it. I'm doing RE down here. What's that distance? 3 feet. That's probably good. Let's say it's 4 feet. Jeez. 4 feet. Okay. Let's see. This one lets me. I didn't have to unlock. See. Oh, because it's not pinned. That one's pinned. This is locked. That's weird. Okay. So I got 4 feet down. I go RE. What's my width for this light? Anybody got a number? It's pretty big, very big thing, but where's those drawings? Nope. Sorry. That is almost, it's got to be at least, if that's 10, that's at least 3. So that's a 6 feet probably from edge. Oh, I guess we could just zoom in. Anybody look at all this stuff? Dimensions written right there. All right, we're gonna say it's we're gonna say 6 total, which means DE boom 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 equal grab one of these. Oh, the equal didn't work. That's not right. Yep. It's not 4 foot down. It's more like it looks like 2 feet. Let's say 3 feet. He probably does. Yeah, that'll make my radius kind of come right off there too. Okay, so I'm going to start by doing create again a reference line, and I'm going to do an arc based on this point from there. Boom. So that's kind of the thing that I'm going to work off of, right? I'm going to sweep a rail on that. We're also going to sweep a rail down here. I'm going to do a thing like this, and a thing like this, and a thing like this. So I could just understand what I'm drawing. this little cross section, let's say it's 2 inches. Actually, let's do it more than that. Let's do it like 4 inches. 4 inches. Okay. So that's going to be a side rail. I'm going to sweep a cross section on that. I'm going to extrude that the length. I'm going to copy that thing back. I then also want to create an extrusion form that's like half this distance. So I might do, just so I do that, I'm going to be able to select that point for a half point. I wonder, ooh, I can offset. I'm going to offset 2 inches. Aha. Let's see if that stays locked. I don't know if that's actually going to stay locked or not. We'll see. Let's see if just these guys here, if I can create the extrusion by just selecting from this. You know how I like to draw everything out first. You don't always have to draw everything out first. I just have these 2 principal ones. So if I say create extrusion, select that one and that one, but then I want to draw from here to there and draw from there to there. I can go FF. And now I got my extrusion and DD, or I'm going to go to the, nope, sorry, end, and I'm going to go AA and lock it to the end. And now I got, this is that that first wedge of it, right? The plane that's actually that's reflecting light. So that was just that first chunk up there, right? I'm also going to do create extrusion. Actually, this is kind of interesting because I want both of these things. It's sketchy. I'm going to edit this, edit extrusion, and I'm going to make oop, that was just 2. I was being funny. You know, flip it past each other. So you can have multiple extrusions being extruded at the same time because they're both going the same distance. Now the rail and that's going at the same time. So just one of those things you're thinking about. Okay. Now we want to make the big rail that's repeated. So I do want to draw it in this one. And I'm going to say create sweep, pick path, that path. And then, so this is where we could create profiles. This is where we could load a profile of like a crazy form. We can also just sketch it. And so at this point in the scale that I'm kind of working with, I would probably just edit profile really quickly. That's the point that's drawing. Just kind of look at it. You can actually say viewer. And it's showing you, yeah, this is actually showing you where it is. Oh, that's weird. It shifted. I don't like that. Because when I've done boxes, usually it stays in it's, yeah, it stays in orientation. But so you can actually kind of set the dimensions based on stuff. So it's just sketching it this way, I found works pretty well on getting what I kind of want to have happen with this rib. It's going to interlock in that. It's going to go past. Actually, I want it to all be kind of maybe to the inside. We're going to have to play with this a little bit because I want this to be at the edge. Let's say 2 inches. So watch what's going to happen is that so we get the thing we want, but I'm realizing I want all of this to kind of be set back in. So that way there's the gap between the panels. So, you know, because that's, you see the little thing. So I actually want in plan, I'm going to go, even though that's the line was there and I was locking to the things, I'm going to do RE. I'm going to set a thing here and set a thing here. I'm going to put this at like 1/2 inch. .5 inch. And now I'm actually going to go, this object, I actually want to lock to that one. It's going to get mad at me because I actually locked it to the other one. It's going to say, yeah, remove constraint. I want it locked to that. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing with the front. So I'll grab this and it'll make sense because now all of a sudden, and I want that to be locked in that plane. Come on now. You might need to redraw that. Yeah, I'm going to redraw that to make sure it's in that front plane. See, now when I sweep the rail, it's going to be outside of that. So I'm going to do that again. Create, sweep, grab the rail there. Yes. Edit profile, edit. Yeah. Drawbox. Now I wonder if I can go AA. Haha, nice. So now I know that that's in that 1/2 inch. And I'm just going to actually make this a 1/2 inch just so it goes right to the edge. Okay. All right. Sliver. All right. This might be a reason to actually not have, well, anyways, we're just gonna leave it away. So now we gotta start. We got our thing, and now in plan. Actually, you don't even need to be in plan. You just need to be able to grab the center line, which you don't see there. I can grab that object and this object, and I can MI, boom, and it's there. We get both reflected. Get offset with clear stuff, but and then I want these to be also back there, right? So I want to grab that object and this object and copy. And then I want to lock these AA. All right. Little light shelf. Now, we're going to play around with this and just load it straight into the project and look at ways that we could repeat it. I was really mad because I thought I should be able to do something with it that I swear I've done in the past. So we could just drop this in. We could actually stretch it pretty good distance. And it should go whatever distance. Actually, it should go whatever distance we want. Vault in class. No, that's vault in class. Sorry, light shelf in class. That should go any distance we want. Let's. I was just doing this. It should go whatever distance we take away. There just shouldn't be a. We did something that locked it. But it should have been based on the line, not thing. Why would that? Should be based on the line. I might have been locking. Exactly. It's something about the extrusion. I think I need to lock it. So this, there's something about where it's extruding to. That it's got to be the end of the, there it is. So it's got to be locked to the line. Which I don't know why I thought that was it, and it just should be. Should even adjust it just if that was correct, it should have been adjusted. All right, so right now it's line based, but I accidentally locked the length of it. It's got to be something to do. Like normally you're just locking it to the line. When you file, I want to see something new, family. Oh, my goodness. So I wasn't locking to that for some reason. Oh, because I made my own reference line over there. Okay. We got to be able to fix this by just changing something. Where is the reference line? Let's do this. Filter reference line. Apply. Okay. Oh, so, but it's locked. So something I accidentally locked. I did something there. Let's see. Get that reference line again. Okay, but damn it. I don't know why I'm not being able to. There we go. So that's what I want. And for some reason, I was locking that to things instead of things to that. So let's just see if I can do it in on this. Let's see. AA. Remove constraint. Oh, let's move in that. Why is that moving that? That's what's okay. So when I was doing my little fancy stuff with setting up the offsets, I somehow messed up the. I'm just cheating and making all these. Hopefully they'll all follow that one. I just want to see if it corrects. Yeah, okay, so now, so I just somehow in that little thing where I was making my own little offsets and stuff. Oh, damn, it just changed the difference. All right, I somehow screwed up the line base when I made my little ends and my offsets. Because all the other ones that I did go whatever length I want, right? So it's repeating the way I want, but that's what it is. It's because those will go, I copied them so they're going to repeat to the object and then that's going to repeat. That's what happened. The things that are connected to the line and the things that aren't connected to the line. So right now it's a unit size, which I was just mad that it is. When we look in plan, it's how we're using it. I'm just mad that let's attach the end of that and go this way, right? It's going that distance. We can grab that one and we're going to correct some things about it. So that's the one in this one, the height's in right. We'll just, that might have been the line that we were sending everything on. What's nice is I could still come in and say, hey, I want it to be, the height of that off, let's say 6 feet up. And now it's going 6 feet off that line up into the ceiling mount. Maybe we want it to be about 8 feet. And we could start to get it to function the way we want, right? Copy. And let's say, let's give it a little gap. That's moved to second, number of them. Let's say just 10. Okay. We can start to maybe let's try to make it light. If we got our dimensions right. I don't remember what our dimension at 100. I should have made this a little different size. I don't know what my unit's at. This is where I would be playing with that to get that right, so that we can start to get what's happening with that unit. Now, for the structures of this, there's just a concrete column below. There's another concrete column here. We're showing how what's actually happening, right, is that this is acting as a beam in the long direction, and it's being there's a lot of compression in this top edge and the tensions in this bottom edge, right? Because it's actually coming down. Now, there's also we could look at how we could make a beam. Let's make another variation in this where we look at, let's say this could be the standard one. Let's make this the standard one, but that we could turn that edge off, like this gutter that's going along that extrusion, right? So we're just going to make a second extrusion on this that we can turn on and off. So let's look at it. It was on this side. We build the extrusion, and again, the standard one. Did I put this at the, what was the thickness of that? 6 and 6. 6 and 6. Okay. So we can start by saying create extrusion. And I could let's just do a box and then make it what we want. And I can grab the one that's over here. I can grab the one that's over here. And go that one. Now we're going to do that one, but then I'm going to, because I want this other one to be the gutter edge to be separate, right? And so I want to do create an extrusion, and I'm just going to sketch it really quick by going, there's this, and there's this, and then I go FF. And there you go. Forward. We could lock it to those things. We could do it differently. No, I hit the wrong one. Now let's grab that. If we want it to be able to turn on and off, again, visibility, cut and void had the cut and void, but visibility's got its own parameter. And so we could say new one, gutter off. Okay, now we got gutters. So that's what I've been doing. I just realized why it's all screwing up. I've been locking. So see how the gutter came to here? That that's what I've been doing all wrong. I've been locked. So I just locked it to that. But so in essence, it locked it to where this was at the time, but this is the shell's responding to what it's supposed to. This is just staying to whatever it was at the time. So the fact that I just AA'd this to the end of that, it's not understanding. So if I go AA, watch, I'm going to change this that beam and that gutter. Okay. I'm going to hit save. And now watch, when I go back into the project, I haven't loaded it in yet, but see how these are all back here? This is going to get fixed and go to the end now when I load that back in. So I was screwing that up in that file. I was locking to a surface of a thing in that model instead of making sure I was locking to the point, right? And we could go back and redo that one. But this gutter will get fixed here. Should get fixed there. Oh, I know. This is one way to something. Why isn't everything locking to that? I'm doing something wrong. Maybe it's because that's the end. That's the line. Okay, so that one worked. So yeah, I would just do, I have a bad protocol in how I'm locking to that line. So making sure that see, they give you a reference line. When you file open a new one, they give you they give you the line and they give you a plane that's locked to the line. And that's where I just screwed up. So let's say new, I think that's, I just didn't understand what was actually happening there. Generic model line based. I just always done things over. So there's the line, but that thing is locked to the line. And I somehow kept screwing up that surface in that. I think I dragged this. Oh yeah, that's still just locked to that. That's locked to that. I somehow screwed up that relationship in that file. So hopefully, I think I just got it back because I locked that to that. Because like this other beam worked correctly the whole time. This one always worked right. So that's kind of fun. One of them was done correctly and the rest were not. So now they're all, so yeah. Okay, so I somehow screwed up there early on. But we could come in and make one without, we could make variations of like with void, without gutter, with gutter, without void, you know, and each one of those as types. Because I could take these ones that have, all the ones that have the void might not have gutter, let's just say, because they're in the building. I don't think it's that simple, but let's just say it's that. So I have void, no void. And so then this one, I want to double click on that and just say, oop, gutter off. And the gutter goes away on those. Still have the gutter on that one. Yeah. So yeah, there's always an error somewhere. You got to see where it's screwing up. Oh, so much fun. I can go back and try to redo that lighting one and not have it screw up. I think what I did is, I think somehow when I was doing the offset little thingy, when I was being fancy with the panel not going the full distance, I locked something incorrectly, that little half-inch thing. So that was trying to be fancy. But how do you, would you like me to work through something and would you like me to try to redo this one that screwed up as a way of getting a clean recording of that? Yeah, that's what I mean. Just start over. Yeah, just redo this and just hopefully see if where I screwed up with it. I'm also probably not going to do that really weird little offset thing, but we'll see how that goes. So let's say I'm going to close this one. I'm going to close down some of this stuff. WW, get rid of the extra. That's the good one. That's the one I have, but I'm going to get rid of it. And we're going to redo that. Just seeing if there's anything else I need to keep in here. I'm going to close these two because I've already messed with them a little bit. I want a fresh start. Okay. So file, new line based thing. File, new, family, generic, line. Hey, look at that. So what I'm going to do is every time I want to extrude it, I'm going to go into this view and lock it to that plane instead of doing other things. I think I was locking into the wrong things, right? So I'm going to go to left side. I'm not even going to rename it. We also made it a bit too big. I think the depth was probably only about 18 inches. So this depth, I'm going to do 18 inches. And I'm going to say this is 24 inches. And I could say this is 24 inches. Just being a little simpler. Yes, I could say equal and control it at 4, make it a parameter, blah, blah, blah. Or I could just say, and I also want them to, this will be nicer because I think the ratio is a little more like this. So now I'm going to say create reference line. I'm still going to do an arc based on this point from here up. So I think there's some offset to that. So I'm just giving myself something to work with. And it's like, again, like as if I was drawing this by hand, I would have, I'm getting myself a point in approximation of what I want there. My rails out here. Yeah, let's start with that. All right, so let's start with the simplest thing. These rails, the rail here. So let's say, again, I only need to do one side. Create extrusion, nothing more than a dumb box, AA. Good to go. Now I'm going to say create extrusion. I'm going to select this line and I'm going to hit 00 for my offset. 2 inches is good. Got that one. Now I can actually grab that as a line also, and I can grab that as a line also. And now I can go FF. And good to go. Okay, I got that. So let's go back to the plan. Those are my objects. I'm not going to do anything except for go AA. I'm not even going to lock because it's smart. I think even what I was locking, I probably screwed up some stuff. Okay, so those two things, let's say file. Let's just make sure that's working. Save. Save as light shelf. Ready? Anybody old enough? All right. Oh, why? What did I do? Why does that not? Oh, okay. So some's like just the AA that is not what's supposed to do, which is really crazy. So that is like rudimentary issue right there. So I'm just going to control Z. So maybe it's like I'm not, let's just try this to go that point. AA that point. Ooh. Actually, I'm going to lock one of them because I didn't lock them this time, right? Oh, no, it should be fine. I'm gonna lock it this time and see if that. I'm gonna lock this one, and then I'm gonna do that one and lock it. And let's see if one of these is different than the other. So one's locked to the point, which is the end of that line, and one's locked to that plane. I know, but that's so dumb. They put the reference line in there. They both work. So it just doesn't make sense. So lock it to the plane, which I somehow screwed up in the other one, or drag it to the point and then it was smart enough. That's just really silly because those were done differently, but both worked. So point notch. I want to do this really quick and just say, am I mirror? I want to see, because I did not lock those. Logically, you would think that they would be important. Yeah, see, that's dumb. Okay, so I was also screwing up like what I was locking. So when you mirror it, you gotta retell it, hey, it doesn't know, it just got thrown into place there. I'm just gonna do all of it and then watch what happens. I bet you it's so. Okay, so there's a lesson. That was an issue. The copying objects always weirds me out. So I might, no, it's gonna be fine. Trust me, it's gonna be fine. Where's that front? There we go. So now we're gonna sweep on that rail. So. I wonder if it's safer. So 2 ways we could make this rail out here, right? We could sweep a cross section, which seems smart. We could also do the same thing as these, offset up, offset down, but just extrude out a small distance, right? So that would be a whole different way of doing it, right? Watch. So the other way, using the same logic, come here, I could say create extrusion. 00, and let's do 4 inches. I can grab one first. There. Okay, grab one first. You have to have an object there because I'm now something's there. 00. Oh, damn it. 00. 4 inches. There's my big rib. Might only go 2 inches back. That's a bit much. 2. Just calm yourself. Okay. I don't like that one. And I'm going to also just grab that line and that line. And then I can go FF. And delete that one. And I can say, there you go. DD. And I say, I only want this thing to be 2 inches. Jeez, why are you getting so... No. Oh, no, just what happened? I pissed something off there. What did I get into? Sure. And I want to edit extrusion. Well, I can also just tell it. That was the whole thing. Tell it 2 inches. Okay. So that would have been one way. Now, again, this idea of mirroring it, we'll see. Is that it? That's it. See, I don't know what it's actually locking to. So let's say save, load in, okay, override. Boop. Okay, so that's there. Now, this is what really bums me out is that, sorry for all, those were just some errors, right? It's like not locking it to the right thing, was getting the wrong thing, all of these issues, dumb. The idea that I should be able to repeat, so let's draw this out. There's 2 different ways to think about this. There's ways that we can make this an object that is based on these points, single line. I should be able to just drop that in somewhere and repeat it on a line on a divided surface, divided line. I don't know why this line base, when I brought it in, wouldn't do that. We just brought it in and arrayed it, right? But I should be able to draw a line, divide the line, snap it from here to there, and then say repeat on that, and it would do it. But this line-based wouldn't. What's silly is generic model does, and so does generic model adaptive. So it really, when this morning or last night when I was playing around with this, I was really pissed that this thing didn't actually repeat on a divided line. Because what we could have done is actually nested this in this file to be repeated to whatever length it went out. Exactly. But for some reason, if I did this as an actual 2-point generic model adaptive in that world, it would do it. but the line based wouldn't, and that really, I couldn't understand why it wouldn't do the logic. So I'm not sure. So like right now, let's say this right, this, if I load this into, let's say the vault itself, I was like, okay, well, you know, I was like, oh, I just need to like grab 2 points and then I could have it repeat based on that increment. I could say, divide, but there's no divided line. I was like, why is there not divided line in line base? And I swear I had done that before and that was killing me. And I don't understand why I can't create, maybe I have the, I was trying to do create reference line going, maybe it has to be on top of, but that is a reference line there. So that's, I don't even understand. It's like, see, there's no divide line. And so, because divide line, we could say divide line at 5-foot increment. And then as you pull the line, more 5-foot increments come out. If you nest the thing on it, it knows to repeat it as it nests. So that works when it's a generic model, but not when it's a generic model line based. And oh, that didn't make sense to me at all. So I was trying to get ways that it would repeat automatically when you pulled the line. There's another way to do it. Let's see if this new family generic model adaptive. See, watch what happens when I do this. We're going to do point just like normal, adaptive, and now create line. Make sure that's on. Got it. Divide, and we're going to make it fixed minimum distance. Yeah, 6 foot's fine. Let's say 5 foot. Jeez, I hate when it does that. It's all. Okay, so let's say we got some points on there. I'm going to see if the line, if I can nest this line base into that. No, don't grab the center. See how like it was grabbing set. I needed to grab 2 nodes. So that way I know that it knows that it's nodes. I know that it knows that it's nodes. So this thing, we're gonna write. Ah, see that button's not, that's just so dumb. Okay. Because if we made it as a generic model, it would array on it. But generic model line based isn't. And that's driving me nuts. That doesn't make sense to me. So I really like the idea that I could just hit array on this, and then it would continue and do it. I've done it with generic. Yeah, okay. It has to be. You gotta make it in generic model or make it in generic model adaptive, but that making this in generic model adaptive means drawing all that stuff on in the plane. It is just so much of a pain. And that's why the other ones are easy. So it's like, why wouldn't it work in this world? I just want to see what would it, so file, let's just do a quick thing. File, it's just not going to change. So it'd be a fixed distance. It'll array, but it won't change its length. And the whole point is I want it. It's so dumb. Oops, I hit F. Yeah, it is. It does do that, right? I mean, that's so let's just look at, I just want to look at something. If I do kind of that right now, let's just say I'm doing one, create extrusion. I'm just going to do a box that's like this and say, yeah. And then I want to do, see, yeah, I realize, I guess I've done it and it's not been a thing that changed. It was a bead that increased. That's what it did, because it was a fixed size. That's what yeah, I'm realizing it was a generic model, but so let's create an extrusion. I'm doing it the super quick way, which means I'm just gonna kind of and another one. Let's do 2 inches. Sure, I'm kind of making it a little crappier in that line. Okay, and then we're gonna grab that, and we're gonna mirror. Okay, so we have this object here, and let's say we're gonna grab all of them, and we're just gonna tell them to be 6 foot. Said all of you. Why are you being? It's really weird that those ones weren't. Okay, so let's say copy light shelf. I want to load that into my adaptive. Let's see what happens. But so the thing is, like, it's not going to change, right? So it's like it's just that size. So if I know I want, and watch, this is where, I mean, it's going to, oh, I didn't actually set it on there. That's why. So we could say work plane based. So this is what we got to do. We actually got to tell it where it's kind of like the logic of what it's doing. So it means it needs to be work plane based. And we could say always vertical, but it doesn't need to be always vertical. But let's keep it always vertical right now and see what happens. So work plane based, it's now gonna, we can override existing. Which is so dumb, like it doesn't come in as work plane, right? SW, no, it's still not gonna do it. It's gonna think of it as one. So annoying. So I realize I've always done it, things that were going down the line. See, it has to be 2-point. We'd have to make it as a 2-point adaptive and then nest it in a thing that repeats. Because like this will repeat. Oh shit, it doesn't repeat. Why is this stuff not repeating? It's like my whole repeat in array just isn't working. And I can't tell if it's like, is it attached to it? It knows that it's a thing. It knows. I want to do the fancy thing that I know I've nested stuff on here where I pull it and more and more. Oh, but no. Yeah, it's not. No, like like if I did maximum distance, if I did fixed distance. Come on. I want a fixed distance. There we go. You do fixed distance like 4 feet, right? And then it's adjusting. But I'm realizing I've done it as columns where the things was stacking, but it was boxes. And the boxes had to adjust in their size, but they were 2-point adaptives. So I was building the thing in the 2-point adaptive world. So that's a pain. So dumb that those things won't lock into here. So dumb, because it would be, you would just lock it to 1 to 2 and then so you just got to array it in the world, which is what we did on the first one. Just copy, array it. I just want it to be adaptive. I want it to lock to that. All right. Well, that was a bit of a sideline, but making it inline based so it's the size. You could have it set to where there's. Oh, that is kind of interesting. Let's see. Yeah, default length is set. Is a thing, so you could change the type, right? So if we go into the world, where's my world that we loaded it? Where's my world? My world. Is that it? Oh, that's why. Okay. I pulled it in, it stretched. Yeah, so that's like crazy. Yeah, height of the changes. Interesting. Because it allows it to adjust when you drop it in, but it doesn't allow it to lock to 2 different things to then adjust later on or repeat. It just like a joke. Yeah. Let's say architecture. Ooh, we're in the world. So I can usually do a line, reference line. Just see if in this world, if it allows it, let's say divide surface. And then won't do it. So dumb. Why? It's even locking to it. It's even all looking smart, but it won't array. That's so dumb. It's so cool. I don't know why I just wanted it to do that. It just bothers me that. Yeah, I mean, we could just drop each one in, but I wanted to be able to drop that line in and have it just go boom, 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 like it repeat to the distance, because that is useful. I have like, it's like making your own dashed line of an object. You pull the line and boom, 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 you know. So just silly. I was just mad that I couldn't figure out how to do that. And that's got to be an internal thing. Like it's just telling it that it can't, like the button's not popping up. So it's like, it won't allow that to happen. Anyways, but dropping it in, repeating it. So things that could be interesting if you want to take it farther, things to take it farther. You can see there's that little lip. So I might even come back in and make a positive form on the outside of the negative form to get that rib. Because that happens, you know, and then you'd want to turn that off when that turns off. So that's actually interesting. We could actually set it on the same parameter. Let's do that really quick. I'm just going to open up this one by double clicking on it and say in the end, we have that. Remember, I used these lines to create the void extrusion. So if I want to be really correct about it, I'm going to make two more out here that are going to be the width of the thing, and that I'll make it the same height as the ridge, which was that line. So now I'm going to do create extrusion, and again just box in some dumb boxes. I could have the void cut. I could have the void cut it. Let's have the void cut it. I'm going to take this down to that. AA. Okay, so I'm just making this box. Box, and let's not screw this up like I had all the other ones. AA. Shoot, I gotta be up in the. You can do it from the ends too, because that should work. That's what you're supposed to do. Just gotta lock it. So what we see is it's there, but it's capping the whole thing. So I actually need to go back in and say, it might let me grab it, cut that with that. Yeah. So now I got that, but now I want this extrusion to also be visible. I wonder if it'll let me turn the other on off. Yeah, cut. Okay, so let's see. So now I got the same button to turn that on, to turn that off, right? I use the same, because the parameter was just an on-off toggle. Like it doesn't know what it's doing. It's just an on-off. So, and I want them to be on the same on-off. So I just use the same on-off switch to do both. You know, and that's when you think about it, it has no, the parameter just says, I'm going to change this number to this number, or I'm going to change this to positive, negative, you know. But so yes, that's what I did. Hopefully. So they should all get a little rib, and then that shouldn't have the rib. So it worked. Something worked. All right, class over, it's done. I'll load this up when I get it. Again, there's lots of other ways you could do this. Frankly, getting used to that very first way of making the surface with a conceptual mass just as the arc, and then applying the wall as a generic 4 to 6 inch thick wall is a great way to work, because then you have real architecture components in the file. So that is a great, like understanding that you can do so many crazy forms when you just understand, make the conceptual mass, have that form in there, and then apply a building component to it. Like it does work. All right. Bye. Bye, everybody.